is kind of a twist to the story. It also is a reminder to people that you do have responsibilities. So it's not just about knowing who you can sue, but it's also knowing why you could be sued. And that's something that people can take away from these YouTube videos that you've been sharing. So,
Well, sure. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that people should be chomping at the bit to, sue their family for things. But if you're having 15-year-old boys run around your house shooting BB guns at each other, not even wearing goggles, you're kind of inviting some trouble and some mayhem. And unfortunately, in that one particular case, that's exactly what happened in one of the worst ways possible. So yeah, you got to take responsibility for what's happening on your property. You got to take responsibility for what's happening under your nose, especially when you have children that you're essentially in charge of while they're visiting. Yeah, you got to use common sense, to say the least.
Mhm. Okay, so now tell us about the twist in this story.
So the twist in this BB gun story happened when I found out exactly how the defendant cousin came into possession of this airsoft gun. He essentially testified at a deposition that he bought it from a certain sporting goods store. And that was kind of interesting to me. I was like, how old were you at the time you made this purchase? And I believe he said he was 15. And I said, and did your parents know? And he's like, no, I kept it from him, or he didn't advertise that he went out and did this. He just went out and did it one day when he was with friends or whatever he did to conceal the purchase. I don't remember, but it wasn't known to the aunt and the uncle, his parents, that he had bought this airsoft gun. So I just started digging around, looking online, I believe, and doing some legal research. And I learned that there's actually a penal law provision that prevents the sale of these airsoft guns to people under the age of 16. It's a crime. It's a crime to sell someone who, at least at the time, I don't know if it's been revised at all, it's been some time, but it was a crime for this transaction to have happened. He should not have been sold this airsoft BB gun at his age. He wasn't ID'd. They just sold it to him. So I talked it over with the clients. I talked it over with my old boss at the time. And I said, I think we need to expand the case to add this store to the lawsuit and basically allege that they were negligent for violating this penal law. And everyone thought it was great. So, off I went, and I added this retailer to the store, to the case. And when the attorney first came in for the store, he was, to say that he was looking his nose down at me would be charitable. He thought very little of me. He thought very little of this claim. He thought it was a big waste of time and a big joke. He didn't know what was coming down the tracks, though. And suffice it to say, they made a pretty substantial contribution to that resolution as well. They, too, offered a substantial amount of money to settle that claim. And while my client's vision was never going to be the same again, there was some, I'll say, satisfaction for my clients, the parents, in that they could breathe a lot easier about any future medical that might be necessary to help him with his vision.